in English in like 2 years. So everybody here, if my English sounds a little bit off, if I say some kind of weird shit, then don't worry about it. It's all good. It's just I'm a bit rusty, and I've been doing stuff in Spanish for too long. So first of all, welcome everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience today. Joanna, Janine, Jose, Juanjo, Manuela, Melissa, Pablo, Paco, a whole bunch of people, Valentin, Sofia, Veronica. Welcome everybody. I'm glad you guys were able to make it here today with us. My apologies for starting a little bit late. Our friend Brad is a super busy man, so I know that navigating through San Francisco traffic and everything else is not always easy. So I'm super stoked to have you here today, man. It's been too long.
Yeah, it is, and thank you for having me here. Sorry, everyone. I was running a little bit late, got stuck in some other stuff, but I want to make sure that we have a really good conversation today.
Absolutely, and look, thank you so much for making the time. So I'm going to do some brief intros. Jose Antonio, thank you for being here. So we are live and direct from what I like to call Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley. I think everybody can relate to that. Things in Santiago have been pretty insane, Brad. We've had quite a run. I mean, I remember moving here 3 years ago and telling a lot of Chileans and a lot of entrepreneurs that I believed in the power of Latin American and Chilean entrepreneurship, and it has been crazy. I mean, the last couple of months has been nuts. We had Corner Shop that was sold, for $3 billion to Uber. We had Notco, which is, a leading company that's reinventing the food industry. Just raised, several $100 million at $1.5 billion valuation from a number of high-profile investors in the States, including, Jeff Bezos and Amazon Expeditions and all those folks. So, the focus on startups and the focus on disruption and building the next generation of great companies across Latin America has never been greater. And as a matter of fact, Brad, the investment numbers across Latin America for the last year are well in excess of anything that we have seen. So it's a great time to be an entrepreneur in Latin America. It's a great time to be running a startup. It's a great time to be raising money. But anyway, we're here to talk about you today. We're here to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is culture. So I wanted to do a quick intro on myself and introduce you, of course, and then dive into our topic because we got a lot of questions and we don't have that much time. And I also want to make sure that we give our audience here today enough time to ask you some questions because I'm sure people are dying to ask you questions and are super curious. So my name is Patrick Mork. I'm the CEO and founder of Leap, which is a cultural transformation company. Leap works with some of the leading scale-ups and startups across Latin America, in Mexico, in Argentina, in Brazil, in Colombia, and in Chile, helping them build high-performance cultures and high-performance teams, as well as developing their vision, values, and culture. So that's kind of what we do. I started a company about 2 years ago. My background is 10 years in Silicon Valley, 5 years in Europe, a number of different startups, a couple of different very successful high-profile projects, and I was lucky and fortunate enough to be part of the team that launched and created the Google Play brand back in 2010, which is actually when you and I met, Brad. I mean, now that I think about it, it's like you and I met in 2012 or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's 11 or 12. It's been a really long while.
Damn, I mean, have I known you that long?
We're getting old.
Shit, don't tell me about it. I feel, look, I'm nearly 50 and I feel great. And you look awesome. I mean, you must be training daily with those swords in the background because you have not aged a bit. So,
thank you.
So, a little bit about Brad. Brad and I obviously go way back, more than 10 years. Brad is a serial entrepreneur. He was the general manager of Tencent North America for a number of years and helped build Tencent's operation there. Tencent, of course, being one of the largest technology companies in China, a leader in the gaming space and many other areas, as well as chat apps and the like. Then he did a stint in venture capital where he helped build up Kinzon Capital, which was a very successful venture in the venture capital space, investing in a number of high-profile startups. And then, of course, and kind of 2016, decided to go all out and start another company in the mobility space. And that has been an insane ride, right? No pun intended. That has been an insane ride. And so I still remember meeting with you in your offices in San Mateo. I don't know if that was in 2016 or if that was in 2017, and looking at the first Lime bikes, right? Back when you guys were starting with the bikes. So tell us a little bit about Lime. Tell us a little bit about, the metrics, the number of rides, how you guys got started, and a little bit about the company, just so people know a little bit the trajectory, which has been simply awesome. And I use you guys like every week, all the time. And so every time I'm on one of these things, I'm thinking about you, Brad. So it's like,
thank you. Yeah, and also hi everyone again. Really excited to be here. Just a little bit background. I also, when I work at Tencent, I was also part of the team of Naspers Group, which you may or may not know. We're one of the really good investors investing globally. And at the time, we were exclusively looking at a few markets. It's called a BRIC. I think everyone probably heard about that, but among them, there was one of the big portion of that was Latin America, and that was way back. That was 2005, starting 2005, and we were looking at the Latin market. Super excited about it. Naspers made quite a few investment there way earlier than the wave. We were probably a little bit ahead of the curve, as you know, right? But we firmly believe in the market, in the creativity of the market, in the booming of the economies, and also, of course, the people there. That's a little bit background. My history connected to the LATAM, was way back. And also at Lime, we launched a few, Latin market as well. Very, one of the market I'm very excited about is actually Chile. I've been there, beautiful city, really, really good people, and I was amazed by the creativity and also professionalism over there. That was, really great experience. So back to Lime, that my co-founder and I started Lime in 2017. So the company is about to celebrate its 5th year anniversary in, let me do a quick math, roughly about 4 months. And it's still a very young company. There's, in my opinion, there's no victory to be claimed yet. There's still a long way to go. We're still working really hard on that. But what excites me the most is we are seeing the movement that we generated globally, the movement of very kind of like local-centric, community-oriented efforts, the movement of making our cities more greener and also less traffic, and the movement of like healthier lifestyle. Right? We started a company really concentrated on some of the big problems that we've seen: global environment, pollution stuff, the traffic we suffer every day, and we also focus on the something that I always personally interested and very excited about is changing the user behavior, generate the movement, instead of, hey, here's a little feature here, a little feature there. With that said, the company has been doing quite well. We're the global leader in micromobility. We launched in over 30 countries and over 130 markets in less than about a year and a half.
That's crazy, right? That's crazy. I mean, you guys are in 30 countries, in 130 markets in a year and a half. I mean, that kind of scaling and growth is insane, right? And I'll let you continue, but at some point I want to get back and talk about the impacts on culture and all that other good stuff. But yeah, tell us a little bit about some of the metrics. Aside from the cities and stuff, you guys have helped an amazing number of people get from A to B and do it in a way that is, cost effective, fun, low carbon footprint. Tell us a little bit about those numbers.
Yeah, for sure. Some of the numbers we cannot share.
Some you can't share. I know that. What you can share.
Be very proud of is we generate over 200 million trips in a really, really short time. And, some of the things I personally really proud of and of what my team has achieved, right? We acquired tens of millions of users, 200 million of trips without spending even a penny on marketing. And that's one thing that I think is quite amazing. When we identify a real problem in the real world, that's the big enough. And if we provide really good user experience and user value, there's no necessary marketing to be done. I'm not against it at all, right? I think marketing is a very important tool and a very interesting, idea to fuel the growth. But what I'm saying here is focus on the problem first will help you go a long way. And when I say marketing let me correct that. Marketing is a really broad term, right? Paid advertising, that's not what we spend on. We did spend money on some of the brand buildings and also generate movement, which is aligned with the vision. But that's most of the growth was fueled by the user's real challenge and also the value we created. So some metrics there that in the early days, we were growing roughly about 5x the speed of Uber in the same time period.
Wow. You were growing 5x the speed of Uber?
Yeah, without paid advertising. And the way faster than any company that we know of, right? I don't have all the numbers of all the companies in the world, but for whatever number is available out there, we were growing way faster than almost any company in the history. So I think that was really something interesting and exciting. The number two, as I mentioned earlier, we went global really early on and really fast, and that's something not easy to do. I'm very proud of bringing not just our product and service to a global market, but also really bring that spirit to global markets. And as a reminder, line probably is one of the most complex business model you could have in terms of heavy assets on the ground, heavy operation on a daily basis, collaboration with not just getting the users, right? Most of the companies do, but also getting the customers, getting the user to work with us, and also getting the government approval to get the permits and working with community leaders and all that together. And then on top of that, we need to design our own hardware and also manufacture them logistically.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly complex business. I mean, because you guys also have to manage, the moving around of the fleets, right? Redistributing the scooters every morning and every afternoon, recharging the scooters. I mean, it is a highly complex logistics business at the end of the day as well, right?
Right. So with that all together, then you still have to do the norm thing, right? You still have, top of the world class of softwares, algorithms and securities and all that, right? Put that all together. Launching globally was a big decision, and it was not easy. It's not a software that you copy and paste or just open up to an IP address. It's not that case. There were a ton of effort put into that in order to make it happen, but we did it. And fundraising and valuation, I think is some of the questions you guys might have, right? We as a company, we don't celebrate fundraising. I think fundraising is a tool, not a goal. In the company, we never celebrate it. We share with the team very openly, transparently, that what we have done, what are the stories we tell the investors, and what's the roadmap, and what are the responsibilities or goals that come with every round of fundraising. But as some of the background, we did raise roughly about $1 billion in the short history of the company, and the company went from, of course, 2 guys in the garage. Well, we don't even have a garage. 2 person with an idea to about $1 billion valuation in about a year, 3 months. And if we counting as a typical way, say, since launch the first market, it's about 9 months. It's about 9 months to get there. And after that, you'll probably read quite a bit of that in the news. The team grew from 2 person and to roughly, I think globally, if we look at the entire team, right, including the part-times, we grow to 45,000 in about 2 years. That's full-time and part-time. So we have a lot of contractors in many different countries and all that. And the that number fluctuates given the COVID. We got hit really badly by the COVID, and in order to make sure that our vehicles are safe and not spreading the virus, I shut down 95% of the market when
I believe that
started. So it was not easy for us. Yeah.
That must have been, I did think about you guys a lot during the times that we were locked up in Chile. I mean, Chile went through a very tough time here. A lot of people were in mandatory government mandated quarantine for 6 months. We couldn't even leave our apartments, right? It was just like, there was nothing to do and you just stayed home all day. But I mean, those data points are remarkable, and your story is remarkable, Brad. And, as I've known you and as your friend, and having worked those 6 months with you at the beginning, with you and Toby and Kane, working on the marketing and the vision, I have very fond memories of that time. And I think one of the questions I wanted to ask you, which I think could be interesting for the audience today, is what was your vision for Lime at the beginning, and how important do you think that vision was in terms of motivating the employees and the team to get where you guys are today?
Yeah, totally. First of all, this is a kind of like belated, thank you to Patrick. Right? In the early days, Patrick and I brainstormed, and he helped me to think through many of the culture and also the branding of the company. I think it's critical, very, very critical. And Patrick has a tremendous experience and also really in-depth kind of thinking, right? It's not like, hey, your logo should look that, or your font should be like this, right? That's not the cultural brand I was talking about. I think your brand is, represented by, your vision is represented by the brand, and your brand, also some way represented by your vision and the culture as well. And we can talk a lot about that, but I want to just say thank you to Patrick first.
I appreciate
now
that.
I'm very glad he is bringing it, to a broader audience, and also he is, in my mind, that doing a really important thing is to bridge the Silicon Valley and also the Silicon Valley over there, right? The Silicon Valley, California.
The Silicon Valley.
Exactly.
and all the other valleys, all the other valleys. But I really appreciate the thanks. It was a lot of fun to work with you in those days, and Toby and the folks. And people sometimes ask me, why didn't you join Lime? And then I go, well, that was financially probably one of the biggest mistakes I made, was not joining Lime. But that's a longer story. But tell us tell us a little bit about this vision, because you talk a lot about mobility, and you talk a lot about, the congestion in the cities, and, how we fundamentally have to change the way we move, right? And so when you think about that and the brand that you guys have built at Lime, and how you guys have been so successful at executing this vision, how important do you think that vision was to the people and the employees, especially as somebody asked, Gonzalo here was asking about, how you guys managed to deal with COVID, right? How important was the vision in terms of motivating people and keeping people motivated when things got really tough?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will start with the first one. What is exactly the vision, right? If you look at the slogan or the tagline for Lime, this is, I think, says a lot. It's like it's connecting life. It's connecting life, not unlock a scooter, not just hey, get a ride, right? It's connecting life, and it's for the community. It's for the cities we live in, and where that come from? That come from is my personal background and experience and my thinking of the world. Number one, at Tencent, it's all about your online living. So Tencent help to power everything you need online, study online, communicating online, entertainment online, everything. Right. I worked there for so long. I believe in the vision. I still do. But in the meantime, I do believe that we're human beings. Regardless how perfect or imperfect that is, we live in the physical world, and we hunger for being part of community, being connected with each other, and we still live in this physical world until maybe Elon Musk, upload our brain into the cloud, right? We enjoy this beautiful world, and the world is beautiful because of people, because of the communities, because of the small business that are created by entrepreneurs. However, if you look at what has been limiting us from doing that, and one of the key reasons was the traffic time and also the pollution outside, and those are the things we want to cure. And we started a company. It's actually never even about say mobility. We started with mobility, but using that to connect people. That did a few things for the company. Number one, it attracted a lot of folks believing that and also passionate about it. Regardless of what the vision or that is, you got cancelers out there. You got the people don't believe it. That's what you wanted to do, right? You're not trying to create something everybody believe, but at least there's enough people passionate about it, believe it. And very easy to understand, right? We are solving the pollution issue, the traffic issues, but the other key thing is very important in the modern society is isolation issues. How we make sure that it's a very easy to use and also costly, effective, and usability very convenient for people to get around. And and that's what we've been focusing on, and that helps us do a few things. One is when we're recruiting globally. By the way, we support about 32. We did a rough kind of a statistic on that. We support about 32 different languages. But within the company, the native language we have is roughly about 60 different languages in the team. That's quite amazing, right? How do you even if the idea is not universal, if the vision is not big enough, or what they don't believe, it's really hard to do that in a really short time. And I think that's one thing is to attract the right people to the company and to the team. And the second thing is when things get tough and rough, the belief is still there. We are a team that was built for a grand vision. Not like and COVID is a great example, right? When COVID hit, we did have to lay off some of the team members and all that in order to fight another day to survive it. But in the meantime, whoever left here is not wondering, we don't have a business anymore. There's no mobility, right? Literally, that was there's no mobility or there's no scooter to be operated. No, that's not the case, right? The case is yes, we had a tough time, but the vision never changed. And more than ever, we need better ways to connect them. We need to be creative. We need to went through the tough time in order to carry on the vision. So I'll give you an example. We shut down the 95%, actually more than that. We actually kept one market operating. 99% of the market, we shut it down, not because any city or government asked us to do. Is at the time we don't feel comfortable. We don't want to become a immediate to spread the virus, right? So we shut it down for public health, and the team gets it. Team knows at the time we're doing the right things. We are sticking to our vision and to the culture of the company instead of say, hey, can we, squeeze in a little bit more revenue or not? And we were also the first to open up, but we didn't open up the business for generate profits and revenues. We first opened it up for first responders and the medical team when they desperately needed. At the time, the public transit, nobody want to take it. And everyone is hesitant to even jump in an Uber or taxi. And many of them live in the city, they don't have cars. So we open it up to the medical, professionals and the first responders for free. And again, that we're demonstrating what we stand for, and it's again connecting the people. Connecting them now in those cases is the first responders to the patients or to people who need it, and we did it for free. So team look at it, what we're doing, how we make these issues, we transparently shared with them. And even for the folks that we had to let go, they are heartily still with love. And many of them joined later. Many of them that look at it and say, you know what, I will just do it for free whenever I need it, whenever my help is needed. So I think the the vision and some of the culture elements really help us to, let's just say, bring the group of talents together and really fight for the grand vision.
And when you think about startup culture or company culture for that matter, right? Company culture is always a product of multiple things, right? There's the vision of the founders, there's the values, then there's the people, of course, which are a big component. How do you see, or what defines for you a healthy company culture? What needs to be present for you to look at Lime as chairman now and as co-founder and look and say, we have a healthy culture at Lime because we have this, this, and this? What is a healthy culture for you?
Yeah, I think I haven't given enough thoughts to give you like a very structured answer, but that's also I believe not the purpose we have this conversation, right? With Patrick and me, I want to just give you my on top of my head, like very transparent and honest answer. So I think there are a few elements that really stand out for me. The number one thing is, does the culture work for the vision and also for the business we're in? They're different. There's no, one thing I can say is there's no one formula that can fit in every single company, right? It's unique, and also different for each and every single company. So, whether it works for the business, whether it works for, for the vision matters a ton.
Right.
I think that's one of the key elements. The second part is, personally, I do believe, I think a company, a startup, right, regardless small or big, it does carry a mission to spread the right values. The value, again, there are two sets. One is unique to each of the company, fitting the business, fit what the business objective or goals, but also if the right set of values should be universal to every person, to every company, and also it's our responsibility to carry forward and also to spread out, right? So that's the second part, is the right set of values. And the third thing is interesting, is what you can really hold on to. And by that, what I meant is that, you put on the wall, it's so easy, but can you stick? Can you really do it? And in particularly very important is, can the founders and leaders deliver that? If you have a culture that you have to work like 20 hours a day, well, you better do it yourself first. If you are going home, in the 5 hours, then the culture becomes anti-culture. It really is not you, it's not a company, it's something that people love at. So I think the third part is important as well. I'll just briefly, go through the three things. The first part, if you are a medical research institution, you want a precision. You don't care about speed. You want a precision, 99.99% precision or higher. If you're in Lime, right? Lime has a really interesting culture. If you ask most of the Lime employee, they will tell you a whole set of, values and culture. But one thing will definitely stand out, called Lime speed. Now, I define the Lime speed is a third faster than light speed. So we will always, that reflected in whatever we do, right? For hardware, for example, it typically is 2 year cycle to develop a generation of hardware. In 2 years, we designed 3 generations of the bikes. We designed 4 generations of the scooters. We designed 2 versions of the e-bike. Actually, small iteration you add up, right? So typical cycle for us is 3 to 6 months, way faster than the industry.
That is fast. Yeah, that's very
I shared a little bit, with global expansion, way faster than literally than any company I know of, with assets, with operation, literally. Even today, I haven't seen another company that fast. Again, it's not me, it's the team, right? The team really embraced the Lime speed. But we do sacrifice. When you're running fast, you inevitably, some of the qualities that you have to tolerate is now 99.999%. So that is what I meant. The culture needs to fit in what a company does, the business model, and what your goals are. And the second part, in terms of values, our values are universal, and that's our responsibility to carry it forward, spread it. Our values are unique to the situation. And one of our values, we really embrace diversity, really embrace, inclusion. And and also teamwork, right? Teamwork is critical for us because our team has a really big spread in terms of geographic, right? 32 countries. We were joking about it. It's Arctic is the only continent we're not on. We're all the other continents.
I think it'd be slippery up in the Arctics with a scooter, man. I don't see myself on a scooter on ice. I was the other day in Santiago on scooter in rain, and I gotta tell you, as much as I love your product, being on a scooter in rain is a shitty experience, man. It's just I was so wet.
The newer generation is coming up.
The newer generation will be cool, exactly. I'm sure it will be. But tell me something. I mean, one thing I was curious, and Gonzalo here had a question related to this. How do you manage to hold a culture together? How do you manage to continue to nurture that startup culture when you are growing at the speed that you guys were growing, right? Because kind of like I see that with a lot of startups here in Latin America, and I've been contacted, and Leap has been contacted by a lot of companies that are growing at very, very fast speeds in Brazil and other countries. And the problem that they have is, you're hiring so fast and you're growing so fast that you start to make mistakes. You start to hire people that don't have the same values. You start to let things on the culture side slip. And all of a sudden, 6 months down the line, you've raised all this money and your culture has changed. And guess what? As a founder, you might not like the new culture that you're finding yourself in. And so I'm very curious about how you guys navigated it, because you guys grew at an insane speed. And so I'm curious, how did you hold that culture together growing that fast?
Yeah, first off, definitely great question. First of all, I cannot claim I did a perfect job. I'm not. There are still a lot of things I wish I could do better. There's still a lot of things I wish I can further improve. I'm still learning, right? The applying to Lime, to whatever future things I will do. The second part, I think it does end up with a few things. The first is, if you create a big and strong culture and vision, that itself becomes a filter. The filtering who are the right person, and then we further apply that to the interview and the recruiting process, right? Hopefully not 100%, but hopefully we'll get the people are really into the culture, really believing the same set of values to begin with. And we even have a set of like anti-culture or values, and those are the things. If we see the alarm, we'll just cut off the candidate. This is one thing I learned throughout my career. Some people hire for the skill sets or qualification, and some will hire for the right fit. And we lean a little bit towards the right fit. The skills that can be learned over time or can be trained if people get the right mindset and are willing to learn. But the fit is really difficult to change. So we tended to focus a little bit more on the right fit. Yeah, the fit, ranging from like cultures and values and all that. Over the skill sets. Hire based on resume is always easier. They're tangible, right? Which school you went to, how many years of experience you have, do you code this, do you use that? The right fit is a little bit more difficult. So we put that into the interview process to do the filtering. The second part then is training and orientation. I went to every single orientation myself until I forgot what time, at really late stage. I personally go to every one of them, and we only talk about two things, right? The cultural value. This is like where the beginning together with the vision, and then brief history of the operating dynamic that we have. And that second part is let people know how complex it is. Let them know that why teamwork, why global collaboration is critical to us. So that's what we did. And of course, there are other trainings in there. And the last piece is kind of interesting. Culture is not static. Regardless what culture you set, it's changing, it's evolving, it's a living organism, and it evolves over time. And you also change, right? When we were two-person working on an idea versus like 100 people launching a couple of cities versus 1,000 people in different markets, it's entirely different. And the culture, the focus is different. Lime speed are critical at the beginning, later on, collaboration becomes more critical.
Right. That's a good point.
In terms of priorities.
That's a really good point.
But I think in terms of like keeping the culture or that, again, the leaders are leading by examples or by context, right? We are embracing all the things we said about it. We're embracing and also acting according to that. And if we can't, we have to assess that, are we not capable to do it? Or maybe that's the wrong culture for that stage. Things change, right? I think even take Facebook, for example, they started by like, hey, break things, right? That's the culture. That's the value they started with.
Yeah, move fast and break stuff. Yeah, move fast and break stuff. Perfect. I'm curious, I mean,
what they
in your experience, because I see a lot of this happen here in Latin America as well. Like everybody's talking about unicorns, right? And it's kind of like the status, prestige kind of bullshit of being a $1 billion company, right? Which I think you and I both know that that is kind of bogus. It's not really the end goal. It's the result of running a great business. But did you feel, or do you feel sometimes that Lime's culture changed when you guys became a unicorn, or did it not change at all for you guys? Was there any meaning to?
Yeah,
there was.
I think it does, but it's not really due to unicorn or not. It's just overall the business growing crazy, and also by nature the team goes much bigger. We grow so fast. We were not able to implement. For example, when I was very young, right? I work at IBM. Well, that probably tell you I'm quite old.
I mean, what? Jesus, yeah.
I thought
I worked in Pepsi, man. I worked in the soft drinks. That tells you how old I am. I mean, that's like, who the hell works in soft drinks anymore, right? But
well, my co-founder Toby worked in Pepsi.
So I know. This is one of the bonds that I shared with Toby, is the fact that we had both worked in marketing at Pepsi. That was really funny, actually.
Right. But here's IBM, how it works. So IBM has well known for knowing it has a good culture. They spend 9 months to a year to train people before they put them on the job. 9 months. I have this on the first day I received a 200-300 page brochure, and it talk about one thing. And, okay, out of many, that 200-page brochure is tell you how to dress. Exactly, and that's how they maintain their culture, the IBM Deep Blue culture. Right, your socks has to be darker than your pants. Your pants cannot be the wrong color with that. Your shirt can have the stripes, but the gap between the stripe is whatever, between less than 2 centimeters. Whatever it is. Many companies today don't have it. Don't have that luxury. You put 6 months, 9 months, 12 months on only in the trainings before you put someone on the job. Right, so I think that makes it difficult. And when we're growing that fast, I think two things change. The first thing is what I don't like to see, but it's hard to avoid. And I will summarize it in this way. At the beginning, there are many people, well, not only at the beginning, throughout the history of the company, there are many people believe in the vision. They come here to make Lime great. Right. When we're growing that fast, raise a lot of money, there are many people also come here because the company is great. Not exactly. They're not here to make it great. They're taking a ride on a rocket ship. And that's the part that we inevitably had to deal with. And then we have to look at it like, individual performances and also some of the culture reviews. And for that part, I don't want to judge any people or hold a colored lens on anyone, right? There are many cases someone maybe joined because of it's a rocket ship, and then I fell in love with the vision and really becomes some of the best contributors. So I think people are growing, changing dynamic. We look at the result instead of the beginning. So that part, however, does change, right? We have a lot of folks jumping because it's a rocket ship, not because they are here to make the company great. Naturally, though, strong culture will filter them out. Yeah, it will feel uncomfortable.
It's a very important point that you raise, and I think that's a really important point for our audience, right? Is it's critical in your recruiting process. And we do a lot of this at Leap, even though we're a very small team, you know, and we're hiring and we're growing. So by the way, if anybody in the audience is looking for a cool job, let me know. You know, one of the things that we spend a lot of time doing at Leap is we have most of our questions in the interview process, 70% are culture related. Like it's almost, we almost take it for granted that if we're hiring you for a marketing job, you better goddamn well know how to do marketing, right? If we're hiring you for a sales job and you don't talk about your sales metrics in the interview, we pretty much know what we need to know, right? But I think you raise an important point, which is that you need to have questions in that interview process that are really to go to the core of the values that you have as a company, and making sure that the person, as you said, is joining the company to help make the company great, as opposed to just because it's a great company. And that's a really interesting point, Brad, that I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss. And it's easy to get swept up in the euphoria of hiring great, expensive senior people from big companies just because they have the resume and they have the background, but they're not necessarily there to make the company better. They're there because the company's cool and maybe it's very fashionable to be in the company, right?
That's right.
But anyway, look, I want to ask one last question before we open the audience questions, because I know we only have 10 minutes left because we scheduled until 6 p.m. Chile time. And I know people are dying to ask questions because they've been peppering me with questions throughout the whole thing. So one last question, which I think is the golden question for you, Brad. And this question is for me as well. So I'm cheating because this one's beneficial for me. If there's anything that you learned over the last couple of years, any advice that you could give, anything you would have done differently, scaling this rocket ship, what would you have done differently? What advice would you give entrepreneurs who are scaling fast?
Yeah, I can think of many. I think this could be even a whole day topic, right? We go through every aspect.
I know. But you're smart enough that you can synthesize it in 30 seconds.
Yeah, when I look back, right, after I publicly said that too, you know, inevitably we made a lot of mistakes. And some of the mistakes are, let's just say, necessary evil. Right? You make a mistake in order to gain the speed. You make mistakes in order to experiment more. Or even you can call it, they're not mistakes. They're experiments. A failed experiment that you learn something more, right?
I'm gonna use that with my ex-wife, by the way. I'm gonna tell her, honey, it wasn't a mistake. It was an experiment.
Well, one condition there is that in order to make it work, Edison made 10,000 mistakes or experiments.
Exactly.
So if you want to make it worthwhile, you better bury 100 times at least in order to make it work.
I sometimes think that's the number of times that it's going to take to get it right these days. But anyway, different topic.
But I think if there are things, right? The first thing is stay objective is actually quite difficult. You know, being entrepreneurs ourselves, everyone is interested in the topic. We're by nature optimistic people. That's why we do startup, right? People see all kinds of challenges, desperating, hurdles and all that. We see opportunities. And opportunities more than often or most of the time are not clear. And we are being optimistic. We are trying to push our way into it. But then when things gets bad, you always also lose, being objective. So am I not that good? Maybe it's just not for me or whatever, or look for excuses. When things goes well, however, we tended to lose that objectiveness as well.
Yeah.
In terms of and got super influenced by people around you, right? When you were one of the fast ever growing company, when you raised that much money in the bank, when you have, people knocking on the door, say, I want to be part of your journey, from like the really well-known communities or well-known investors or partners, stay objective is getting hard. Very hard.
Yeah.
So how to evaluate what people to hire, not to overhire, but what do you need? Objectively think about every single decision will be not easy. If anyone can stay objective through this, crazy era, then I would say that less mistakes and more likely to be more successful to lead a company. But it's hard. I went through that.
It is hard. It is hard. I don't know if you ever came across a book called The $1 Billion Coach that was written by Eric Schmidt a few years ago. Yeah, about Bill Campbell. And that was kind of what Eric talked about in his book. Eric, for the audience, Eric Schmidt is the former CEO and chairman of Google. But he talks about it a lot in his book. And he actually has a quote where he talks about Bill Campbell as his coach. And he says, the problem with most people, and this is compounded when you become successful, is, we are never good enough at seeing ourselves truly for the way we are as other people see us from the outside. Right. And so I think that touches directly to your point about keep maintaining perspective is Eric's answer. And I think the answer that we see from more and more successful entrepreneurs is, get a mentor, get a coach, get somebody from outside the organization who can help you keep perspective. I think, that I have a coach, for example, and that's been tremendously helpful, personally and professionally. But that was his take on it. I want to move to kind of audience on. Sorry.
I mean, that's what I said exactly. Some really good coach and mentor will be extremely helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, we have a lot of questions. I have one question here from Pablo Arevena who says, Brad, in the early stage of your company, how did you go about raising money for Line Bike? I think that's that's a very broad question, but any kind of best practices or tips of do's and don'ts when you're raising money for an early stage company?
Yeah, I can share briefly, given the time limitation, I can share briefly how I think about it or approach it. I think, again, number one thing, be objective on what raising money means, right? Yeah. It's not a goal. It's not a status or a badge you want to collect. It's really to getting the resources to push to the next stage of the company. Right. And also it's a great opportunity to get support and help from some of the most resourceful fund and individuals in the world. So those are the two objectives: money, access, or connections. Be clear on that. And in order to get that, I can share my perspective from being an entrepreneur, on this side of the table, raising a lot of money, and also as a venture capitalist that give a lot of money to entrepreneurs. Clear vision, that's always very important, but not necessarily, since we're talking about early stage of the company, not necessarily a solid plan. That part is a misunderstanding of the people. We all, as investor before, when we look at business plans, I can clearly rule out 80% of the debts because they're not because the plans are solid or not. It doesn't make sense, right? You don't need a perfect business plan, but you need a plan that makes sense. And in order to make it sense, one of the key criteria is the big vision. The vision needs to be big enough. And the big vision, you think about that, this is like a let's just say a greenhouse to grow a tree. Mm-hmm. The greenhouse needs to be big enough in order to even have a tree, or maybe have 10 trees, growing in there. And as entrepreneurs, you put in your heart and soul, regardless. If it's a food stand, you still put in 20 hours a day to work on it. If it's a gigantic opportunity, you still put in 20 hours a day, right? So better to go a little bit bigger. The second part is being also, I think it's fairly interesting. It's also, in a way, being objective. Again, that we have a lot of optimistic views on the world, right? If I did this, B, if I did A, B will happen. If I did C, the whole world will explode. That's not necessarily the case. So I think being objective will be highly appreciated by the investor. I think they will get to B, but there are different hurdles I need to handle. There are unknown things here, and this is my remedy. Here are my plans, but I have to validate it. Out of the 10, maybe I validated 4 of them. I still have 6 to validate. But that's exactly why I need to raise money. So being objective on your thinking and very rational will be important, since that's an evaluation not about idea, it's about you. as a founder.
All right.
So I think those are the
that's
two
super
major
helpful.
things.
All right, and here's another very interesting question from Javier. He asks, what's your advice for, high performing and passionate teams, to manage some sort of work-life balance when you're going through this extreme growth, right? Any advice you can give how do you manage work-life balance when you're going through that kind of growth?
Yeah, I'm more with some other entrepreneurs that in this camp. I think work is part of your life. There's no work-life balance. For me, that work is part of the life, and many of my other colleagues share the same thing. If you don't enjoy it, then it becomes a burden. When it's a burden, then you need a little bit balance or kind of like vent to go out, right? Yeah. If you really enjoy it, if you ask me today, you got 2 hours in the afternoon, what do? I jump back to work because I love it. Yeah. So I think finding the right thing will be important, and this becomes an interesting factor as well for the people who want to make a company great. They will find and enjoy it. I'm not saying that every minute is like pleasant or happy, right? Just like hiking, I like hiking, right? Hiking, the hard push is part of the journey. Sure. To get to the summit, and many of the folks that I encounter, they are in this camp. So with that said, right, we have to take into consideration different scenarios, all that. And what I see is not really work-life balance, but really is how to balance the difference between team members. Some of the team members, they're single, they can work like 20 hours straight. And some of the members that has family and they need to balance. Some will be more appreciating, some time to exercise. So that to me goes into more, in a way, more teamwork, right? The teamwork, how we make sure everyone stay on the same page, collaborate really well, but also take into consideration of the individual needs and other responsibilities. So it is work and life balance in a way, but maybe in a different sense. And the other part, I think find great opportunity to do that. At Lime, we have a great opportunity is people got to travel to places they've never been to. Some of the engineers say, okay, I need a work-life balance. Well, how about out of the 100 markets, you pick a market and you go there and work for a month. Yeah. And we won't pay off the hotels or whatnot. Typically, engineers don't get to do that, right? But we paid for the engineer to go into the market, live and breathe in a different community we're serving, and also really observe, right, what's happening with the operation, with customers. But imagine that, right? Imagine an engineer that we have, for example, like living in the Silicon Valley, always sit at a desk and being a little bit work and life imbalance. We send him to Chile, such a beautiful city, live there for a month. He doesn't drop a single line of code in terms of work, but get really good experience out of the job, and also get a deeper understanding of the market, the user, how they're different. And we did that. And when they've come back, the communication between the LATAM team and the Silicon Valley gets much better. People understand each other much better, and they become friends. So I would say there are many other different ways. But again, I'm not against individual need. That's what we're here for. We're here for the user and for our employees.
Brad, I realize we're at time. Do you have time for one last question? Do you have to jet?
I can do maybe 1 or 2 questions until 3:10.
All right, great. So one question that Ariel here asks is, what was your main challenge when it came to the leaders in the company? As you're growing very fast, what are the core skills that leaders really needed to learn? What were the main skills that you guys had challenges with that you needed to develop with your leaders as you guys grew that fast?
Yeah, first of all, I cannot claim that I'm the best at it. I hired a leader, I let go leaders, and I had some issues and all that, the typical stuff, right? If anyone give you advice, they say I did everything perfect, don't believe that guy. Just
no, for sure.
Unfortunately, that's the case, right?
I'm just wondering if there's like a recurring theme that you saw on leadership. Well, like, were there a lot of communications issues? Were there a lot of empathy issues? Were there leaders who just didn't know how to listen and ask questions? I don't know, right? Leadership is kind of like a basket of a lot of different skills, as we know.
Exactly.
Were there any that kind of like came up repeatedly where you said, oh my God, we really need to work on improving this skill, like, I don't know, team collaboration or goal setting? Or was there something in particular that kept coming up as you guys were developing a new generation of leaders to grow so fast?
Yeah, totally. I think Patrick already touched upon a few common issues you will encounter, right? What I think overall, there are two things really matters. First is a not good match for the stage you want to go company. Again, hiring based on resume is really easy. You can look at the resume and say, wow, this guy, ran a team of 2,000, was a CEO at other companies, all that stuff may not fit you. I think be precise and crisp. What do you need? Even the title is the same, they're different. I had to shuffle some of the leadership because of that, right? They've been there, done that according to them, but they look at the line, it struggles. It's a very different business. I think that Apple hired was that a Pepsi guy or Coke?
Yeah, he was a Pepsi guy, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, right. So I think that's a good example of it, right? Even on the resume looks good, it's not the right need. Even the title could be the same. So I think that's number one, is a mismatch. The second part goes back to the culture part. There are folks come here because the company is great. So they're not team working. They're making decisions for the best benefit of them rather than the team.
Right.
So I think that part is critical. And especially when it comes to leaders, right? Their leaders are good at communication. We're not. Their leaders are more precise, or the leaders more inspirational. That's all fine. What you don't want is a capable person has the wrong intention in the team.
Right.
And the damage is way bigger than the individual contributor, or way bigger than anyone else on the team. If you see that, fire immediately. And that's the best advice I could give. And it's actually not that hard to see. It's very easy to see.
All right. Well, listen, I think that's all we have time for today. So I think as we wrap up, Brad, first, obviously, awesome to catch up with you. So cool to see you again. I hope we find some time in your schedule to have a virtual coffee and talk more off the record about stuff. And it'd be great to catch up. But I think I just want to thank you enormously for your time. I think everybody here is obviously very happy, to have you here. It's always great for us here in Latin America to talk with people who have been there, done that, struggled, made a bunch of mistakes, as you mentioned, very humble about it, and get your take on everything. So thank you so much for making the time. I really, really appreciate that. I also want to just give a brief shout out to our sponsors, to Endeavor Chile, for helping us market the event, for being great partners, for also being such an awesome global engine of entrepreneurialism, and really helping the latest generation of startups, not just in Latin America, but all over the world, for what they've done. I think Endeavor is just really awesome, really helpful for the ecosystem, and helping us, kind of like get the message out and the importance out about culture and values and leadership. So thank you, Endeavor. Thanks to our friends at Talana. For those of you who are doing salary payments and HR stuff, if you don't use Talana, have a look. An amazing solution. We use it here at Leap. We're big believers. Great company, and the guys, Pablo and Antonio, have built that company, which just had a successful exit a few weeks ago. Done a fabulous job, fabulous platform. So thank you for your help, and of course, thank you to Cowork Latam, our third sponsor, and obviously, we're biased because we have our offices there, and we love Cowork Latam, and we love working there. So thank you to our sponsors. Thank you, Brad. And as a last thing to our audience, I just want to let you know, and I'll probably say this in Spanish, but si están realmente pensando en la creación de cultura, no, yo tengo una pregunta para ustedes ahí, que es, ¿qué tan preparado está su cultura para un crecimiento acelerado, como lo hemos visto con un Notco, con un Lime, con alguna de las empresas? Si queréis saber más de cómo Leap trabaja con startups y scale-ups como B-Track, Talana y SumUp y otros, les pido que cliquen el botón arriba para fijar una reunión con nosotros y tener una conversación sobre la importancia de visión, cultura, equipos de alto desempeño y liderazgo. Así que si quieren una cultura de crecimiento como Lime, encantado de hablar con ustedes y ayudarlos a cumplir con sus sueños y a hacer una startup exitosa de propósito. Y con eso, muchísimas gracias a todos. Les deseo muy buena noche. Thank you again so much, Brad. Wish you lots of luck. Thinking about you always when I ride those scooters. And I am looking forward to see the next generation of Lime scooters and mopeds. I want to see mopeds in Santiago, Brad. When are we going to see mopeds?
Yes, we are. That's coming soon.
Good stuff.
Good to see you, Patrick.
Great to see you, my friend. All the best. Adiós a todos. Muchas gracias. Que tengan muy buena noche. Nos vemos en breve. Y no se olviden de agendar su hora para hablar con nosotros. Les deseamos muy buena suerte y buenas noches. Take care, my friend. I will talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Chao, chao. Chao a todos. Muchas gracias.